So thank you very much, and also good morning from my side to all the distinguished guests. It's a pleasure for me to be again in Greece, and also especially the first time in this new role. So I would like to comment a little bit on the role of Airbus to support and to help in all this challenge of innovation R&D, and maybe ideally also helping in the Greek paradox. Maybe we can also be a player and be a supporter in this case. If we start off Airbus, I think it's well known, the activities in Airbus Commercial, Airbus Helicopters, and also Defense and Space. And one of the things that I think it's important for us at Airbus is the width of the activities we have, because we have seen more and more in the discussions before, one of the challenges with innovation, with R&D, is to pull things, to bring new technologies, to bring new players. So already with the fact that we within the group do have already a good number of different activities, a good number of different partners in the different elements, is already helping us very strongly to be a player in this field. If we talk defense and space, we also have a good amount of activities that we cover. We are thinking of all the air power elements, military aircraft, transport aircraft, mission aircraft, all the space elements that also we address, exploration, but also Earth observation, telecommunication, and also what we call the connected intelligence, which is how all the different elements come together and how all the different elements operate together. Again, are elements that from the portfolio perspective put us in a very good position to really be able to support and be able to help in this innovation challenge. If I were to describe the role of Airbus, it would be focusing on three pillars. One is quite clear: we need to provide the goods and the products with the European strategic autonomy. We're illustrating here the fighter business, the MRTT business. Is also typically the military aircraft is one of the elements that, thinking of the NATO forces, thinking of the different European forces and allied, I think we really represent the core to make sure that these aircraft are really up to date in terms of technology and are really also state of the art in terms of the different technologies they embed. So this is something that is, I would say, our fundamental role. And I would even say that most of our activities in terms of innovation R&D are really made to satisfy this role and to make sure that we really deliver to our NATO partners, our European partners and allies, the right assets and the right operational needs. Other key element that we are very especially proud of, and is also very relevant for us, is that also part of our role is to keep the European access to space. We see more and more space as, I would say, a key area in terms of the new requirements, in terms of the new threats, in terms of being able really with connectivity, with intelligence to feed all the different activities, all the different challenges that we are having. So I would say also in our mission and in our role to make sure that we continue keeping the European access to space. I think Toulouse was mentioned before as one of the clear hubs for that. With our Airbus activities, with our Arianespace activities, is really something that is really critical for the future. And again, because we see more and more the things that we are going to talk about in the coming slides and also along the day, we sometimes see the applications on Earth, but most of them, a lot of them, are really have a foundation on the space. And this is something which is quite important and quite relevant for most of what we will be talking about. And then the third pillar, also quite important, is that we are helping to shape the future European programs and also the future global programs. And this is very important in two directions. Again, thinking that we cannot just focus on the operational needs of today. We need to continue evolving and focusing on the operational needs of tomorrow and preparing for those. But also very important, we need to continue shaping what should be the industrial base and the capabilities we need for the future. So this is something we are continuously doing through partnerships, through different alliances, of course relying on the national alliances that the different countries, especially our home countries, are making. And this is also one of the areas that we are also focusing on and we are also putting a lot of emphasis. And then all this together, I would like to highlight one of the FCAS program, the Future Combat Air System, that is really probably one of the most challenging projects that we are in the sense that really brings together all these elements. We are talking about how the future combat will look like in the years to come. We are also trying to look how the different assets are going to be needed in this scenario, not only the next generation fighter, but also remote carriers or the combat cloud to bring all those elements together. But in the same way, we're also putting special importance, what are the skills we need, the technologies we need to prepare for that, how we can involve different players, because it was also mentioned before, in some areas we see that defense is driving, in some others we see that the commercial world is driving, so we need to make sure all these elements come together, and also how we can conceive a system that is there to keep the upper edge for many years. In the sense, it needs to be scalable, needs to be upgradable, needs to be able to make sure to incorporate new technologies in an easy way. So I think, as you can imagine, it's a very ambitious project that, of course, we are working with France, with Germany, and Spain as leading nations. But I believe it's really relevant for all the allied nations, because at the end, what is clear is that whatever the future combat will be made in an allied way, and we will make it in a cooperative way. So this is also something very relevant and very important for this work we are doing. If we think about the world today, we see a number of challenges. I will not go by one because maybe we get depressed, but it's true there are a number of things, a number of challenges ahead of us. And one thing which is clear is that we need to be flexible, we need to be adaptable to face this. And also maybe I would combine what we don't know with what we know. And also what we know, we have also some tangible elements that if we think of even at European level, there and the investment, the numbers or the economies of scale are not on our side, especially if we talk about different challenges, thinking not only US, because US, of course, is one of our key allies, but thinking China and others that maybe are not necessarily always in alignment with us. So this is something which is also a kind of heads up for us to say, okay, probably we can do some efforts in increasing the volume. This is also something always welcome, but probably we need to do things better, or we need to do things in a more efficient way. In order to be more efficient, maybe I will show some pills or some elements, but of course it's something that I guess it's in the interest of everybody. One thing in the efficiency of R&D and innovation is to make sure, and it was mentioned also before in the morning, that this innovation and developments end up in products. We've seen a lot of innovations, a lot of developments that are nice maybe for the academia to evolve and to continue evolving the competences, but we see they go nowhere in terms of capability. So this is something where at Airbus we do have a privileged position there, so we're really trying to have or at least as much as possible, all this innovation entering into products. And here I put some examples. For instance, the automatic air-to-air refueling, which is one of the activities we are doing in our tankers, is really a very good example of a tangible innovation that has been also done in alignment with the operators in a closed loop of improvement with the different operators. And it's something that maybe sounded like a dream some years ago, but now it's something that in the Singaporean Air Force and others is already in operation. And if you have the opportunity to train with, for instance, with the Singaporean Air Force, a lot of automatic air-to-air refueling is doing already as we speak. So it's already a good example on how this really come to reality. Other areas innovation, and again, thinking of innovation scouting, thinking of using all the width of potential partners we could be using. And again, thinking here of dual-use technologies, thinking here of how innovation for defense can be done. And also very important, because sometimes sounds like a paradox, but sometimes you are focusing on making sure the R&D ends up in a product. But by doing that, maybe you're having too much a short-sighted approach of what can be done. So while you are really trying to be as efficient as possible to bring innovations to products, you also need to be as wide as possible in assessing what is coming here and there to make sure you take advantage of the most of all these elements. So this, again, is something that thanks to the wide portfolio of Airbus, thanks to the wide portfolio of activities, commercial helicopters, and a huge scope of other things, we are really in a privileged position to bring these elements into the mix. And then, of course, the other element is partnership. At the end, it was mentioned before, thanks to the EDF, also the push that Europe is doing on defense innovation, we need to make sure that we also take advantage of that. And we also, I think, we have a responsibility as Airbus, as one of the big European primes, to make sure we also take the best of other smaller companies, of other smaller economies that can be in. Because here is also in most of this a message we pass in our home countries, but it's relevant for the whole of Europe. As Airbus, we also have this responsibility to be the tractor of all this economy, of all these projects. We understand, and it was mentioned before, maybe sometimes for SMEs it's much more complex, or even for smaller companies much more complex, that their innovation and research ends up in a product. But for us, at the end, we should use also this ability to bring those companies in, to bring those SMEs in our products, and make sure that innovations really pay off and really have a result. So this is something that we are also quite proud of, and again, it comes also with the responsibility of our role there. And specifically talking about Greece, we also see a lot of potential for Greece having a stronger role in some of these European projects. And we're also discussing in many fields, in air combat, air mobility, information superiority, space, of course, and digital transformation, again, to make sure that probably some elements that for some Greek companies or even for the Greek economy at large is difficult to tackle in isolation, that we are helping them really to be part of these European projects. So I think it was not news to me, but it's quite impressive always the amount of projects and the amount of presence Greece has in these calls and Greece has in these EDF activities and Diana. But the idea is really to make sure, as we say, that all this is funneled into capabilities, into products, and ultimately also into business for the Greek economies long term. So this is something that we are, of course, trying to foster and trying to maximize. I will try to finish because I don't want to spoil the coffee break completely, but maybe I will put a couple of examples of this. One is what we call the FMTC, the Future Mid-Size Tactical Cargo, which is one of the areas we have seen where we in Europe have a capability gap in terms of this technology. We have also, under the leadership of France, we are having a strong push to have a product or solution in this 20-ton payload aircraft size. And of course, we are trying on the one hand to fill a capability gap, but also to make sure we develop the right technologies for the years to come. We optimize the configuration, we optimize the capabilities as much as we can. And we start already defining the industrial setup that will help us really to make this ultimately not just research, but a product and a capability to be delivered. So this may be something I can also say, very proudly say that the Greek involvement in this project is a reality as of today, in the EDF call of 22, and as we are speaking the project. It's also something I would like to mention with the different flags, that it's an important contribution, not only in quantity, but also in quality, thinking of the involvement in the different areas, and thinking the involvement in really the critical areas of the study. And probably what is the challenge that we all need to face, again, thinking this is not a study, this for us should be the beginning of the product or the beginning of the project. So it's something which is the common effort we are trying to do now, to align the different interests that the industries are having in terms of workshare, in terms of capability, also with the interests that different ministers of defense are having in terms of the financing the development and financing ultimately the acquisition of this product. So a very challenging project, a very interesting one in the months to come, because again, here we are sure that this is a capability Europe needs. We are sure that this is a capability that will really help our nations to continue evolving in the independence on this very strategic asset, and also to make sure that we already put the foundation of the different industries and the different consortium members that could be really the ones delivering ultimately the capability. So I will stop here. I would really like to thank you for listening, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the conference and to the rest of the very interesting topics discussed here today. Thank you very much.